This is a Fox News alert from New York. I'm Marianne Rafferty.
And I'm Rick Fulbaum. Good morning, everybody. The death toll continues to rise after Japan's deadliest earthquake ever. There is a new official number now, 574 people dead, but that number is sure to rise as hundreds of people are still said to be missing.
And meanwhile, new details just coming in about meltdown fears at one of Japan's nuclear plants damaged in Friday's 8.9 earthquake. Residents are now being warned to stay indoors after an explosion destroyed the roof and walls of the Fukushima No. 1 nuclear facility. That and another plant lost cooling ability following yesterday's destruction, and radioactivity at the plant was detected at 20 times over the normal level. Japan's Nuclear Safety Commission saying earlier that it indeed may be experiencing a meltdown. We're told several workers reported to be hurt in the explosion at that plant, including one who's trapped inside a crane. About 45,000 people who live within a 6-mile radius were reportedly evacuated earlier today, and now we're hearing that area, could be expanded, that a lot more people could be evacuated as a result of this, because we just heard from the Japanese government that there is radiation definitely leaking from this. For more on this disaster, we're joined now by nuclear expert Mark Hibbs. Hi, Mark. What can you tell us about where they are in this right now? I mean, is this a meltdown?
It certainly looks like the beginning of one. The Japanese government has warned for several hours that a meltdown was about ready to ensue. The problem that we're having right now is that we're getting very little direct information from the plant. There's a lot of speculation and contradictory reports coming out of the plant site via various Japanese news agencies. The media have been reporting, as you say, that the explosion has been attributed to an explosion blowing off the top of the reactor building. There have been other reports in Japan, somewhat less spectacular, that suggest that the explosion was a hydrogen explosion related to efforts to cool the reactor core. So we don't really have any confirmation yet of what's actually happening there. The Japanese government has said precious little about this. The utility organization that runs the plant has also said very little, so we're expecting news. My intuition is that they are struggling desperately with this, because if they had succeeded in cooling the core, we would be hearing that officially, and that we haven't heard yet.
Mark, just explain to people out there what a meltdown is. What does that mean when you say that there is a meltdown or the beginnings of a meltdown at a nuclear power plant?
Basically what that means is that the hot fuel inside the reactor is no longer being cooled by water. The water boils off. The fuel begins to heat up. There's pressure also related to the steam buildup inside the reactor core. There's a tremendous amount of heat and pressure in there, and basically what happens is that the fuel begins to melt due to the high heat. The pressure then continues, and you have the possibility that in addition to damaging the structures in the core, because the radiation, the humidity, the heat, and the pressure all conspire to destroy structures inside the reactor. The pressure, if the building is not secure and the integrity of the building is not guaranteed, then the building itself can break up, and then you'll see a significant emission of radioactive material into the atmosphere.
Obviously, 45 different countries have offered help to Japan to deal with the humanitarian effort as a result of the earthquake and the tsunami. What kind of international assistance might be useful when we're talking about the nuclear situation here?
There's precious little the outside world can really do, because when this reactor began having this loss of coolant accident yesterday afternoon, they had basically a window of several hours to perhaps a day to get the reactor under control. So the timeline on this is as follows. When the earthquake hit, the power went out of the reactor site. That shut down the reactor. There was no more critical reaction in the core. But then they had the problem where emergency cooling equipment failed because of further power supply difficulty related to the tsunami, which came in and flooded the reactor buildings. So they are without power and cooling capability. The the Japanese reactor then immediately took action together with the utility to fly in their new replacement diesel generator power systems and other equipment to get cold water into that core and flush that heat out of there. That's the problem that they faced. They had basically, let's just say, give or take a few hours, about 24 hours to do that. We have seen a day gone by. We haven't heard any news. There's a lot of speculation swirling around the plant. And because we haven't heard anything specifically from the government or the utility telling us on the outside world that they have this under control, we can only assume that they're still wrestling in dire straits with this issue.